Hey, it's Dave Cribbs here, lead trainer at Auto Dealer University. Welcome to your Workout Wednesday. And today we're going to talk about specifically when we're in the situation of having either low inventory or a customer that comes in and we just don't have the car in stock, and we're talking about maybe locating a car or figuring out how to accommodate that particular customer. So today what we're really going to do is talk about how do we increase our odds that we're going to move that deal forward. So we're going to talk about 3 actions to take every single time. How often? By the way, 100% of the time, right? That's the theme when we talk about things that we're going to do in Auto Dealer University. We do them 100% of the time because we know that they're going to be effective and help lead to a stronger closing ratio. So when we have that customer that comes in and either our inventory is just simply low, because obviously many dealers throughout the country have been experiencing this throughout this whole pandemic that we've undergone or gone through. And we've seen that yo-yo effect of supply and demand. So it's something that many dealers are experiencing right now as we speak. So whether or not it's just in general that you have a low inventory, or even if you have a full, beautiful inventory, right? There's always that one car that someone's looking for that we don't have. And then we start thinking about either locating the car to accommodate the customer or finding them an alternate solution. So the idea here, though, is today we're going to talk about 3 things, both actions to take and then, of course, things to say. Because we don't want to just talk about, oh, we could do this, this, or that. We've also got to talk about how do we move the customer through this, or that, right? In other words, the things to say, the things that will create the action that we need to take in these particular instances. So we're going to start by kind of laying down 2 things as a foundation. Number 1 is an interesting statistic, which is that over 80% of customers that call in or contact a dealer or walk in with a particular car in mind wind up leaving in a different car. Now, to me, that's a very satisfying statistic, because if I don't have the car that the customers mentioned up front, it means that my odds are actually way through the roof. Now, this is what throws a lot of salespeople off, is that when they hear that, they believe in their heart of hearts that this customer is likely stuck on this particular version of a particular car, and that's really far from the truth according to the statistics, right? And I think if you really look back and either at your dealership, your own experiences, you'll find that many, many times you've delivered a car that was different than what the customer initially stated. So what that does is just gives us confidence as salespeople, reminds us that stat of the fact that there's a lot of hope when we introduce ourselves to a customer and they ask for something specifically that we may not have right away. So there's that part of laying the foundation. The second part is kind of the old saying, which is, hey, don't see what you can sell, sell what you can see. Sell what you can see, which really leads us to our first point of actions to take. Look, when someone comes in and they're looking for a particular car, even when I know that I don't have that car, and by the way, again, a different lesson is always walking your lot every single morning to know what you have, what came in the night before. Here's where we get in trouble, is that oftentimes the deal actually stops at the very beginning when a customer, even though we know this statistic, hopefully we do, that's why we remind ourselves of that over 80% of the people actually take home something that they didn't come in for. But most importantly, so many salespeople kind of lose from the very beginning when they take that to heart, that the customer only wants this, and then they know if they've walked their lot or know their inventory, they know they don't have that car, and then they just basically tell the customer right away, hey, we don't have that, can I get your name and number, call you when I get it in, or hey, would you want to possibly order a car or locate a car, we could probably get the car, those kind of things, right? But that's not really the language. And when we do talk about locating a car or getting a car, there's specific language we're going to use. We're going to look at that today as well. So let's just get started and jump in. Okay, so actions to take, right? What are the 3 actions we would take if we had someone walk in the store that was looking for something that we don't have? The first one always, how often? 100% of the time is walking the lot. Again, remembering that statistic. The thing that I'm looking for here is a customer may be thinking, I want this, or come in on this particular car. We don't know 100% as the salesperson how truly locked in they are to that, but the stats say that they're open to other options, right? In fact, oftentimes they're finding something they like better than what they originally had in mind. So the point is, I want to walk the lot. And the reason I want to walk the lot, and this goes back to another training called Let's Go See, right? It's one of the sales tips that we talk about in the top 20 sales tips. When you have that customer that comes in and they're looking for something specific, right? Especially if you're, and we'll talk about the inside and outside. What I mean by that is if they're sitting down in a controlled interview process, we have certain things we can do proactively. If they're outside with us already and we're interviewing them outside on the lot, then there's other steps that we take to help lead us to the next place. So, for example, if I have a customer and we're standing outside, and I haven't sat them down in my office to qualify them, but we're standing outside and they mention what we have, or what they'd like to see, even if I know it's not there, I'm gonna use the word track, let's go see. Hey, let's take a look. I may have that in inventory, let's go see, right? And the truth is, maybe I missed something. So I'm always going to look to make sure that I don't have that in inventory, or I do have it in inventory. So I am sharing the truth with the customer. So what I'm going to do is, hey, let's go take a look. Let's go see where we're at here. So my idea, though, is that if it's likely that I don't have that car, and I'm pretty sure I don't, I'm going to walk them through the most similar cars that I can in hopes of those cars catching their eye. In fact, I'm going to make some suggestion. Hey, here's a model that's very similar to what you mentioned. I'm not sure if this one is the one that you're looking for, but let me share with you a couple of things that this one is different or is alike from with this other car that you're coming in for, right? So let's go see. Walking the lot, getting out there and actually seeing what you actually do have in hopes of landing them on a car, right? The second part is show the closest comp. Now remember when I mentioned a few minutes ago, there's different actions that we take based on where we're at physically. So if we're out on the lot, it's going to look a little bit different. But let's go back to the idea that, and this is what I certainly recommend, and we teach this in Auto Dealer University, is having that interview very early when the customer arrives, having them sit down in a controlled environment, having that initial consultation, showing lots of value to the customer and interest and concern while listening to them and getting that roadmap of how to sell them the car, right? So if we know through the interview process that they're looking for a car that we don't have in stock, here's what I'm going to say. I'm still going to say, hey, you know what? I think we might have exactly what you're looking for. And what I'm going to do, because I'm going to go double check again, but while they're sitting down, I'm going to say, wait right here. I want to go put my hands on a vehicle that I think is what you're looking for, Wait right here. Let me go see and touch this and make sure that we have it, right? So what I'm really going to do is when I go look for this car, I'm looking for the closest comparable car, the closest possible car. Oftentimes we'll have the right car, it just might be a different color or maybe a different option, right? So what I'm going to do, instead of carrying the customer out there with me to say, hey, do you like this one? Hey, do you like that one, right? I already have an idea of what they want. I'm going to find the closest possible solution, and I'm just going to go. I'm just going to, again, mention to the customer, hey, I'm just going to go put my hands on, I think we might have exactly the car. Let me go put my hands on it to make sure there's some around back, whatever the case may be. I just want to make sure, and I'll be right back, right? Now, I'm going to go get that car. I'm going to start it up, and I have the air, the heat, the radio, all that stuff at the position that I want it to be so the car is most desirable when they actually are introduced to the car. And yes, I'm going to introduce them to the car here in just a moment. So when I pull that car around, the car that's very similar, I'm going to walk out and I'm going to share with that customer just as if that's the car, exactly the car that they wanted. And if they give me any hesitation, so for example, let's just say that we're looking at a blue Camry, and I have the exact Camry, but the color that I have is silver. I don't have a blue Camry. I obviously want to sell them the silver Camry, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce them to the car. When they come out and see that the car is silver, hey, Dave, we told you we wanted a blue one. I understand. Right now, I just took a look at the lot. I don't see a blue one. What I did see was a silver, but if you can, just for a moment, just imagine it was blue for a second. And the only reason that I'm asking you to do that, Mr. Customer, is I just want to confirm everything else, because if it's color, we can typically access that and have it here. It's typically the same day or the next day. But a couple things I wanted to point out about this particular car. First, I want to verify, is this exactly what you're looking for other than color, right? And if the customer confirms that with which they typically will. Okay, so great. So imagine this is blue for just a moment, but the big thing is here, and what I want to accomplish is actually sharing a couple of things about this car that you may not be aware of that really separates it from other cars on the market. I'm going into the demo. And then I'm going to notice in parentheses here I have make the car the star. We talked about that last week. Go back and look at that particular training and talk and look at how to make the car the star, because what we're essentially doing now is hopefully switching someone to the silver car or a car that's similar, that we feel is most similar to the car they're looking for. So the third one is creating urgency after justification. After justification. So what do I mean by that? Creating urgency after justification. So the justification, let's say that we don't have the car in stock and we really do have to talk about getting a car in, and oftentimes the customer, see, you have to understand and begin to think like the customer. In other words, what's going through the customer's mind? So if I come into your store and you don't have the car in inventory, what do you think I'm really thinking? What I'm really thinking is, hey, I probably can find this car. I just need to go to a couple other stores. That's what's in my head. So knowing that as a salesperson, that that's what's in the customer's head, now I can have a prepared response, which again we talk about all throughout Auto Dealer University. This is how we can become a professional in leading a customer to a weighted decision in their favor that allows them to move forward, right? Crossing the plane in their mind to actually move forward. So here's what we do when we have this prepared response, right? If I know for a fact the customer is likely thinking, hey, I just need now to leave the store and go check with some other places to see if I can find this car. Well, now what I'm going to do is I can come down here, things to say, right? Things to say. And by the way, they're up here as well. So in fact, let's just go back to number one. We'll connect these dots real quick. So when someone comes in and they say, oh my gosh, Dave, you don't have anything here, or you don't have, man, you've got no extended cab trucks, or no dually trucks, or no diesel trucks, or whatever that animal might be that's missing on your lot, right? Customers comes in and acknowledges that, sees that right away, states it out loud. So what I'm going to do, again, understanding how the customer is thinking, right? They're thinking, oh, I don't see any of these, right? There might be a small part in their mind that thinks it could be hard to find, but most likely they're thinking, man, I got to search around. I got to search around. That's what's actually entering their head if they're kind of locked into a particular car, right? So if I know that, I've got to know how to respond, because remember, I want to walk the lot, I want to do other things, I want to engage with the customer, get them a little bit further. So the first thing I'm going to say to the customer is, Mr. Customer, if they notice I don't have a particular car, they see that I don't have anything in stock like what they want, and especially if it's a hard to get vehicle, right, or we're in a tight inventory situation, I'm going to say, yeah, Mr. Customer, right now it's pretty much every dealership struggle is finding this particular vehicle, right? It's pretty much every dealership struggle. That's why I wrote that down. This is a power phrase. Here's the reason. And by the way, you can use this in other situations and scenarios as well. But when we talk about inventory specifically, when I say that right off the bat, what did you hear, by the way, as the customer? When I say, hey, it's every dealership struggle right now is locating these or finding these particular vehicles because of our inventory situation, right? Now, you can even go a little further with a word track I always use, which is called as you can imagine, right? Or as you might imagine. The reason I say I begin a statement with as you might imagine is I'm actually giving the buyer credit for being educated in this area, even if they're not, right? It feeds their ego, and it also allows them to agree easily, because you're darn right I can imagine, right? You're darn right I understand that. You're darn right I know that, right? So it really helps. So here, let me do it in real time. So a customer comes in, Dave, man, I don't see any dually trucks out here. What you guys don't have any dualies? I'm going to say, Mr. Customer, you're absolutely right. Right now, with what's going on with the pandemic, we've experienced this kind of yo-yo effect with supply and demand. But here's the good news. Right now, I will share with you, it's every dealership struggle right now. Every dealership struggle. And then I will go into that, as you might imagine. As you might imagine, Mr. Customer, with this whole pandemic thing, it's really affected the inventories. But here's the good news. And then I'm going to follow up with some good news, how we could actually move forward, right? So the next thing I'm going to say is right here, what we can do within minutes, right? By the way, this is a powerful word track. Again, and it can go in any situation. If a customer says, well, hey, what are my payments on this? Mr. Customer, great news. we can actually get that, and within a matter of minutes we can access that information. We just need this or that, right? So again, let's talk about this from the inventory situation. Mr. Customer comes in, as you can imagine, it's every dealership struggle. See, when I say it's every dealership struggle, I'm planting in the customer's mind, I'm feeding them information, content that says automatically that no matter where I go, this is the position that dealers are in. If it's a Dodge dealer, a Toyota dealer, a Honda dealer, whatever that looks like, right? When I say that, and then I say, as you might imagine, with the pandemic, here's what's going on, right? Now I'm justifying what's happening, right? And now I'm going to give them good news, right? I'm going to give them good news of how we could actually move forward. But Mr. Customer, here's the good news, Mr. Customer. Actually, now with the technology, obviously, in our network, with all the dealerships in the Southeast, I can actually, within minutes, access where this particular vehicle is and give you information on how to secure that if you would want to, right? So that's exactly what I'm going to say to the customer. The reason is now I have a solution that within minutes I can get them information. So now what I'm going to do is move that deal forward, right? If we absolutely don't have something in stock that I can show as a comparable, or after I've walked them through the lot and they haven't landed on something, now I can go back to this word track and let them know, hey, within minutes we can access, right? Because if I've planted the seed that now it's going to be a difficult needle in a haystack to find, of course they would rather get the information immediately. Hey, where is this car? How fast could I get it if I was interested further, right? So again, we go to that. That'll allow us to go back inside if we're not already there, and then begin to pursue the details of finding that particular vehicle. Okay, so create urgency after justifying the big picture. See, I just gave them the big picture, right? Now I've justified kind of where everybody's at, the fact that every dealership is in the same position, the fact that we can have a solution though and access this car immediately. So now that I'm doing that, here's where I'm going to create the urgency with the word track. Here's where the word track comes in creating the urgency. And that is, hey, we can secure, and I'll do this more in a role play here in just a second, but we can secure one of the remaining ones now if you're in a position to move forward. Now think about that for a moment. So here's how that's going to look again as I nail down in my interview process. That I've explained the situation with the inventory. I've let the customer know, hey, the good news is within a matter of minutes, I can access this particular vehicle and find out if there's one in stock, where it's at, how long it will take to get here, if you wanted to do business with us. And after I've gone through that, now here's what I'm going to say to the customer. When I come back, or before I do the locate, or after I do the locate, depending on the order of how your management team wants to do it, here's what I'm going to recommend as the word track. Now, I'm basically going to share with the customer, hey, there's great news. We do see a couple of remaining units. We do see a couple of remaining units. We do see a couple of remaining units. So what we're going to do at that point is we're just going to ask the customer, or suggest to the customer how to move forward with that. So what I'm going to say is, hey, hey, good news. We do see there are a couple of remaining units. I say remaining because they are the remaining on the ground units. But when you hear remaining, it means that we're going to be out. Even in the broad big picture, we're going to run out, right? Which is very likely anyway. And I am 100%, by the way, sharing the truth with the customer. These are the remaining ones right now on the ground, right? So when I say remaining, again, everybody's competing for those remaining vehicles. It creates urgency even in that word track, right? So now I'm going to ask the customer flat out, hey, Mr. Customer, what does it say? We can secure one of the remaining ones now. If you're in a position to move forward, it's exactly what I'm going to share with the customer. Hey, Mr. Customer, great news. There's a couple of remaining ones out there right now, and we can secure one of those probably within minutes if you're in a position to move forward. And then I shut up, right? Remember, whenever you ask for a commitment of any kind is when you shut up, right? So now think about, though, the dynamics of that question. Hey, we could, or that statement, hey, we can go ahead and secure one now within minutes, one of the remaining ones, if you're in a position to move forward. And then the customer is going to reply. Here's the good news about the reply, right? Oh, by the way, did you notice what I didn't include in this? what I didn't include was, hey, if the price is right, if we could work it out, if you feel good about the deal. Those are things that come possibly later. I'd reframe them a little bit. But statements like that, the if I could, would yous, are going to come after this big, bold statement that doesn't include us dropping our pants, for lack of a better way to say that. So the point is that when I share that, when I say, hey, the good news is, hey, there's a couple of remaining units. There aren't many. They're very scarce, and everyone, unfortunately, has access to these. So, dealers are actually, obviously, very happy to get them when they get them. But here's the thing, is that we can secure one of those probably now within minutes if you're in a position to move forward. Again, I stop, right? So here's what what can the customer possibly say to that? There's only two things they can say. They can say they're not ready to move forward and they need more information, or they can say, yes, all right, well, let's see what that looks like, right? They're ready to go. Yeah, I'd like to move forward if we can work things out. See, we don't even have to say that typically, because the customer's automatically going to say it. Why are they going to say it, by the way? Here's why. If they're ready to move forward, right, they're not going to move forward until they have the rest of the information. So their natural response, if they're ready to move forward, is going to say, well, yeah, I mean, I think we could if we could, what are we talking? Or what can you do for me? That is a huge buying signal that says I'm ready to go. I just need the additional information. It doesn't mean that I have to steal this vehicle. Doesn't mean that you've got to sell it to me below invoice. Doesn't mean any of that. It can mean, hey, all it means is I need your first pencil. I need you to tell me what you want to do so we can move forward. What an amazing thing to hear from a customer, right? So that's what we'd like to hear. The thing that's less than desirable for us to hear is some other reason why they can't move forward, right? So let's just talk about that. Remember, if the customer says, well, no, I'm not really ready yet, or Dave, well, what would be a best price on that, or whatever the case may be, right? Remember the rules of engagement: empathize, agree, take them off the hook, and find a solution, right? So how would I do that if the customer says, well, I'm not really ready yet, Dave? Hey, that's quite understandable, Mr. Customer. I get it. The good news is we know there's some out there. If you're not ready to move forward, by the way, Mr. Customer, I would never ask you to move forward unless you were completely comfortable or had all the information you needed and were ready to go, right? So now I empathized and agreed with him. I took him off the hook just now by saying that. I'd never want you to move forward unless you were ready to go and had all the information anyway, right? Now the solution is a couple of things in this particular scenario. The good news, Mr. Customer, is that right now there are a couple of remaining. I can't guarantee how long they'll be, obviously, but let me ask you this. It sounds like you're not quite ready to move forward. You don't have quite enough information. What do you feel is missing right now? I mean, and looking at the big picture and looking at the deal, is it about the money? Is it about the timing? What is the area that we should focus on that we might be able to serve you best, right? And now we're looking for that real objection, and we can go further with that. So hey, this is an opportunity, by the way. Here's the big lesson in this whole thing when it comes to selling in low inventory. Remember the two foundational things? If you can remember those, you'll find your way to these. Write these down. There's only 3. I made it short and simple. I only gave you a few. By the way, there are many more, but here are a few that you can use. But the foundation, again, is 2 things. Number 1 is that idea of sell what you can see, don't see what you can sell. Sell what you can see, don't see what you can sell. And the other thing that will give us confidence in doing that is really embracing the pure fact, the statistical fact that over 80% of people buy something different than they originally came in for anyway. So imagine us cutting the deal off early by just saying, hey, no, we don't have that, or I can order that for you, or, hey, let me get your name and number, or, hey, we could probably locate one if you're willing to, do that, if I can get you a good deal. Those are deal stoppers. Those are deal stopper responses. What we're looking for are responses that get the customer hooked in. And I don't mean that in a manipulative way, but I mean, let's give them something they want to hear that makes sense, that helps us move the deal forward, that's truthful, honest, moral, integral, all those things, and let's move forward in the deal. by saying things like, as you can imagine, Mr. Customer, right now with the pandemic and the things that have been going on, it's every dealership struggle. We're kind of all in the same boat right now. We're all dealing with that same thing. That plants the seed to the customer. Doesn't matter where they go, they're going to run into the same thing. But the good news is that, you know, within minutes, I can access now with our technology and our network of dealers in the Southeast, I can access this particular vehicle, find out within a matter of minutes how many there are, where they're at, and how we could maybe secure those for you. Right? So that just makes sense to the customer. Yeah, I want to know that, even if at that point, because we're early on, we haven't earned a lot with that customer yet. We're early on. So even if they're thinking, I'll get the info and run, we still need to keep them there, capture them, and with the idea of getting that info for them, and we'll get it. But now it gives us the opportunity to continue to build rapport, continue to ask the right questions, continue to put all the pieces together that make our deal and I hate to use that word, but make our transaction and our dealership and our car, everything makes all of ours become more and more attractive as we move this deal forward, so that we're leading them to ultimately a weighted decision in their favor, that they come to no other logical conclusion other than to do business with us. Hey, hope you enjoyed this. We'll see you next week.